Hi everyone, welcome to a Sparks Live cheese special. I'm telling you, it's going to be un-brie-lievable. We've got 2 delicious recipes and loads of cheesy jokes. And we've also got 2 great guests. So George Baldwin-Edie, one of the amazing development chefs at M&S.
Pleasure to be here.
And Chris Dawson. And Chris, I'm not even going to pretend I can pronounce your job title. Go on.
Well, I'm very, very lucky. I have one of the best jobs in Marks and Spencer's. I'm the cheese buyer. But my French title would be Chevalier du Fromage or Companion of the Guild du Fromage.
So if you've got any questions about cheese, tonight is the night. Have a think, and we also want to hear your cheesy jokes. And before we get on to the recipes and tasting the cheese, tonight's competition, a chance to win £50 worth of M&S vouchers. Just let us know your favourite cheese to the Sparks Live email address, and I'll announce the winner later on. And without further ado, let's get some cooking done. George, over to you. Thanks for joining us tonight.
No, thank you for having me. So this evening we are going to do a lovely Cropwell Bishop Stilton tart with a caramelised shallot and balsamic kind of jamminess on the base. We're going to bake that, and then we're going to go straight in and talk about the cheeses, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do a beautiful kind of riff off of a carbonara.
Sounds good to me.
Before we do anything else, we're just going to get the tart out the fridge.
Out the fridge, and we're going to get the ingredients up on the screen now. If anyone's cooking along live, we'll be going fairly slowly, but you can obviously watch this back. There's all of your ingredients, and then we will crack on. So yeah, over to you, George.
Brilliant. Okay, so first things first, we're going to get our pan on the stove on a nice medium heat, and we're just going to go in with a little bit of oil. Let's make sure this is on.
And this is, we're going to cook this in real time tonight, aren't we, sir?
Yeah, so this is super quick, super easy. So you should have some nice shallots, and we're going to peel those like this, and then we're just going to roughly chop those up. And I've got some pre-done as well.
Why shallots over onions, George?
So shallots, they just deliver this really gorgeous sweetness that once they get caramelized and nicely colored, you know, a little bit of sugar and then a little bit more balsamic gives you a nice stickiness. Okay. And that kind of sweetness bounces off the cheese, and I'm sure Chris would fully agree with that. So we're just going to go straight in. You should hear that nice sizzle when you know that your pan is nice and hot. And like I said, we've got
a load of them going in there.
Yeah.
And they'll cook right down.
Cook right down. Probably only need about that much.
George, tell me more. I'm sure everyone wants to know, a development chef at M&S, what exactly do you do?
So, yeah, like you said, it's kind of the dream job. So as a chef, all you want to do is be creative and just consistently cooking and, you know, trying new dishes and cuisines. So I've been very fortunate to work on a lot of different things, like the new gastro range. So that kind of fits into my French classic training. Yeah. But then from, you know, the Bordeaux region, then straight over to Korea. I'm working on, you know, japchae for 1 week and Korean fried chicken. And then, yeah, it's just, there's never a dull moment. Every day is a challenge, and it's super busy. So just quickly, now we've gone in with a little bit of butter. Yeah. We're going to season that with a little pinch of salt.
I mean, onions, shallots, frying in butter, it's one of the best smells in the kitchen, isn't it?
Absolutely. Now we're just going to let that nice and caramelize up, and we're just going to move over to our tart case, because this needs to go in the oven while this is cooking, and we're going to blind bake this. So we're just going to take that off the tray.
And George, here's a question coming for you. What's your background? Do you prefer Michelin-star kitchens, working in the restaurant environment, or working at M&S?
So, yeah, my background is originally Michelin-star kitchens, and then went over to America for 2.5 years, and then really just wanted to get into more of a creative role, really, and just really flex different areas that I've never really experienced. And like I said, development, you're constantly touching different cuisines, different products. You know, you do great things like this. It's just...
And the world's apart in terms of jobs, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Completely different. Do you like to do a bit of cooking, Chris?
I love cooking.
With cheese every day?
Not with cheese every day, but I certainly would cook a lot with cheese. Yeah. You know, you just have to choose the right cheese for the recipe. Yeah. Some cheeses go with cooking far better than others, but you know, if you want to get some real cheesy flavour, choose a really mature cheddar, rather than a mild or a medium. Go for an extra mature or a vintage, and you can use less but get a lot of flavour.
A lot out of it. Love the sound of that. What's happening here, George, with the pastry for anyone cooking?
All we're doing is, as you can see on this tart in front of us, which we've previously done, is we're just scoring the edge, and that's going to allow the center to stay in our base and the outside to puff up and give us a nice edge. Okay. And then what we're going to do, if you have a knife or a fork, we're just going to prick all over. And what this will do is it will stop this beautiful puff pastry from puffing up too much in the middle.
But not all the way through, right?
Not all the way through, yep. And then what we will do is we'll egg wash it. And then that will keep our crust nice and golden. And then we're just going to blind bake this while the rest is cooking.
And we are using Stilton in this recipe, Chris. And there's a question coming for you. Is there an alternative to Stilton? Because not everyone likes blue cheese.
Yes, there's many different cheeses you could use with this recipe. One of my favourites would be Taleggio from Italy. It's a brine cheese. It's really winey and yeasty. It's got tons and tons of flavour. The Italians use it a lot in cooking. Yeah. We tend to use it more as a cheese board cheese. Yeah. But it's brilliant for a recipe like this.
Cook with. Quick egg wash?
Yeah, quick egg wash. Really making sure that we pay attention to the edges, because that's really where we want all the colour.
And this is so easy to do as well, isn't it? I mean, it's not complicated, and it's a great way to showcase that Stilton. And we've got a bit of footage later on. I went up to the Cropwell Bishop Creamery in Nottingham where Stilton is made. And it has to be made in certain counties, doesn't it, Stilton?
It does. Stilton can only be made in Derbyshire, Leicestershire and Nottinghamshire. Yeah. And Cropwell Bishop is in Nottinghamshire. They've been making Stilton there and other types of cheeses since the early 20th century. Yeah. And in Marks and Spencer's, we've been taking this cheese for about 60 years. Okay. So we have a long relationship with Cropwell Bishop, and relationships are really important to us in cheese buying. Because it's all about the provenance and the quality and the flavour. Yeah. And working closely with the cheesemaker.
And I learned something fascinating. We were talking about this Stilton in particular, and Robin, the guy that produces this cheese, was saying that the quality of the milk, so depending on how lush the grass has been, that makes a difference in the taste. And we were talking earlier about some wild garlic you could once taste in a cheese the milk hadn't been pasteurised.
I had an unpasteurised cheddar a couple of years ago, and it had this amazing flavour. I couldn't quite identify that flavour. And then suddenly it dawned on me, wild garlic. Yeah. And the cows the year before had obviously been eating in the hedgerows. And because it was an unpasteurised cheddar, the flavour came straight through. And it was absolutely delicious.
Fantastic. Well, while that's in the oven, we're going to get on to taste a few cheeses.
Just really quickly, we're just going to, now that we're getting a nice amount of colour on all of our shallots, we're just going to go in, stalk included with our thyme, plenty of it. And what that will do is when that cooks, the leaves will just naturally fall off the stem, and we'll just pick that out later. And we're going to go in with our sugar at the same time, and that's just going to help with the caramelization. And then we'll come back to this in a few minutes when we're going to add the balsamic.
So we just keep cooking that down.
Keep cooking that down.
Don't rush this stage, I guess.
No, this doesn't really need to be rushed, because then the tart is doing the hard work now. This can just stay on, nicely cooking down. Turn that heat up ever so slightly.
Smells delicious.
A little bit of cracked black pepper.
Okay.
It wants to come out.
There we go.
Imagine this is cracked black pepper.
Bit of that in there. What's your favourite cheese, George?
Oh, honestly, the Cropwell Bishop Stilton is up there with one of my absolute favourites. Has been even before I was working for M&S. Yeah. It's the complexity, the saltiness, the blueness. It's just amazing.
Perfect. Right. I'm getting a bit hungry. Let's try a bit of cheese.
Well, what we brought here tonight are some of my favourite iconic Marks and Spencer's cheeses. We're going to start off with an absolute French classic from eastern France, from the Alps. And this is Vacherin de Haute-Doubs. Yeah, George. It's made using Montbéliard milk. Okay. And that's really important because the breed of the cow, and like you were saying about what the cows eat, brings a huge quality and flavour to the cheese. So this is a mountain cheese made in the lower Alps. It's got a spruce band around the outside of the cheese. I can see them
doing a close-up on my face there. That's outrageous. Oh, it's like
a liquid fondue.
I was going to say, it's really like you don't even have to warm that up in the oven. It's just so
You can just imagine that.
Like silky
summer's
smooth.
night, wine, friends.
I would serve that with a lovely white wine on sourdough bread or walnut bread, or if you just drizzle that over new potatoes.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
That's
delicious.
coming home with me, that one.
There's actually
100%.
something that we've been developing recently, which is a top secret, but cheese and pickle loaf. Ooh. That would work amazingly with this, dip straight in.
And the other wonderful recipe with this is you put garlic pieces into the cheese, half a glass of white wine, wrap it up in tin foil, put it into the oven for 15 minutes at about 180. Yeah. And when you bring it out, you just scrape off the top and you've got a liquid fondue. Yeah. It's absolutely magnificent. It is so Moorish.
I could go in for more, but I think we're going to try something else, aren't we?
Well, next we're going to stay with France. Okay. We're going to go to the best époisse, made in Burgundy by Monsieur Berthaud. This is reputed to be Napoleon's favourite cheese.
Okay. And you eat the rind and everything here, don't you?
We eat the rind.
Yeah. Could we pop the method back up on the screen? There's a few people cooking along at home, just wanting to catch up with the tart. Is that possible? There we go. So at the minute, we've cooked the onions down. There's a bit of sugar in there, some thyme. That puff pastry case is now baking in the oven. And that's about as far as we are, isn't it,
That's
George?
about as far as we're going to get for the time being.
Okay. Right, now back to the cheese. So another French one. And the texture there, it's very soft.
So this is what's called a wash rind cheese. It was traditionally made by the monks in the 16th century.
Just puts a smile on your face.
And they particularly used to make these cheeses in the winter time when meat was scarce. And so they used to wash cheese with alcohol. And the alcohol gives a real meaty flavour.
Getting that.
And this cheese became extinct during the Second World War. And Monsieur Berthaud, with his family, in the 1950s, brought it back. And now this is one of the most famous French cheeses that you would have at the Elysee Palace on the cheese board.
That's outstanding. George, can we just see the onions on the camera there, just to show people the colour and the texture that we're going for?
So this is about the stage now where we're going to want to go into, we're going to add our balsamic vinegar. You can see it's got nice colour all over. And you shouldn't be really scared, as long as you're controlling your heat. You know, colour is flavour, so we're just now going to go in with our balsamic.
Okay, balsamic vinegar goes in.
And we're going to turn that heat right down, and we're just going to let it reduce gently around all of the shallots.
Get your head back from that, because that vinegar hits you in the face, doesn't it?
Yeah, we kind of want to cook that harshness off a little bit.
Right, on to the next cheese. So, quick recap of what we've done so far.
So we've had Vacherin Mont d'Or.
Yeah.
We've had the époisse made by Monsieur Berthaud.
That's my favourite so far.
And now we're going to Switzerland, to what is reputed to be the best Gruyere producer, called Le Cray.
Le Cray. What would this be good for cooking-wise? What would you maybe do with that?
Gougere, or choux buns.
Okay, yeah, it's a good melt there.
And again, this will make a wonderful toasty on sourdough bread with caramelised onion. Grate the 3-year-old cruncher, mix it with some Le Cray Gruyere. We've got deep umami here.
It's almost a bit of crystal in this as well.
We've got crystals. The two combined together, it makes the best toasty in the world.
I mean, when it comes down to cheese, the best recipe has got to be cheese on toast, hasn't it? But when you do it properly with the right cheese, it's like when we were in Cornwall filming this Cornish cruncher with the dairy farmer, and I would ask everyone, how do you like to eat it? And he'd say, Chris, I just make a mixture of 2 different cheeses, melt it on some good bread, and it's as simple as that. But that, even on its own, is nice, isn't it? Is there anything you would pair with that if you just had it on a cheese board?
A piece of pear. So cuts, has the acidity, or a piece of apple would go beautiful with that.
A little bit of sweetness.
But yes, but that flavour just comes in waves.
Oh, man. How do you go about putting a cheese board together? What's in your head of, like, what are the elements? First of all, you've got, like, the taste, I imagine, of what you're picking, but how do you balance it?
Ultimately, I would choose maybe 5 different cheeses.
Yeah.
You want something with a real iconic standout, like the époisse. You want a hard cheese, so either the Gruyere, the Cornish cruncher 3-year, or the Red Fox. Okay. You always want a blue cheese. Yeah. Here we have a goat's cheese. That's Kidderton Ash from Butler's. And quite often you'd have something like a brie de meaux, a soft brie. Yeah.
And what makes this goat's cheese so significant? Is it rolled in ash, this one?
It is, and that's historically, again, what the French do. It's a way of preserving the cheese. You know, and it's got a very delicate flavour.
Are any of these made with veg rennet? Is there anything for, like, vegetarian?
Yes. You know, the red fox would be vegetarian, as would the Cornish cruncher, the goat's cheese, and the Stilton.
I can see them focusing on my face again. That is, again, they're so different in flavours, but all equally delicious. And we asked earlier, what's your favourite cheese? You just can't pick because it depends on the occasion, the time of year. Time of year. You know, at this time of year, I would tend to have a lot of mountain cheeses because mountain cheeses tend to be really good and associated more with the winter. Particularly this. This is a seasonal cheese, only available from October through to February. And why is that? Why is it only available in those months?
Because when they're not making Vacherin, they're making Reblochon, they're making Kante. And it's just historic in France that certain cheeses are seasonal. Yeah, and that's what it's brilliant. You know, you don't have to make a cheese all year round. Just like, you know, when you go to France and you go down to Provence, you get the most amazing goat's cheeses. Yeah,
I was about to say, this goat's cheese, if anyone doesn't like goat's cheese, I'm not the biggest fan. That's such a...
It's quite delicate,
mild goat's cheese that anyone could just go straight in.
It's very clean. Yeah, you know, there's no bitty goat back notes, which historically you might have got with goat's cheeses.
And someone asking earlier, what else could you use other than Stilton? Goat's cheese would be nice on there with the caramelised shallots.
You know, the cruncher would be lovely on there, the red fox. There's so many cheeses, you know. Napoleon said, how do you govern the country with over 500 cheeses? And France has over 500 cheeses. Right. You know, it's...
and cheese, how long have you worked in this industry?
I've been buying cheese and enjoying... Well, I've been buying cheese for 19 years, but I've been enjoying cheese for most of my life.
It's a passion for you, I can tell it really is.
It was an interest, and that became a hobby, that became a passion. And I remember my parents introduced me to lots of different cheeses as a child, because they had lots of visitors from around the world. And I had a goat's cheese from Norway called Gjetost. Yeah. That's one of my first memories. Really strong caramelised flavour. Not to everybody's liking. And that's what you learn over time. Okay. What's good, what's not so good, what your personal tastes are like.
Have your tastes changed over the years?
I think, like a lot of people, the older you get, you start to develop, you like stronger flavours. Yeah. And that could be as a reflection of your taste buds going. Of course. But also, you refine your palate more.
Yeah, that's it. That's what we'll call it then, instead of your taste buds going. Is there another one we can try?
Yes, so this is another favourite, which a lot of people won't have discovered yet. It's called Red Fox. Okay. It's basically a vintage Red Leicester.
And when you're tasting a cheese, what are you thinking about, you know, where people describing wine when they're talking about it? Is there anything I should be looking out for when I eat this?
Again, it's the first impression that you get in your mouth. You know, it's that flavour hit. Oh, yeah. And Red Fox gives you that deep umami, that deep savouriness. And then you get multiple layers of flavour coming through. And it just, the flavours continue, they develop.
Talking of the developing, this cheese here, that's what I felt developed the most, and almost that meatiness at the end of it.
That's probably the alcohol.
Oh, right, okay.
To be washed in 9 times in Marc de Bourgogne.
9 times?
Not 7.
What happens 10. With the alcohol once they've washed it off? Who's drinking that? Where's that going?
I think it goes, because it's a combination of alcohol, water and salt solution.
Yeah, get rid of it. Okay, right. George, where are we up to with the tart? That's had a little bake in the oven.
Yep, so this has now finished its blind bake. So you can see that the edges, they've all stayed where they need to be. And you've got this beautiful little crater, which now we're just going to fill with our little jam mix.
Nice border.
Yeah, exactly. It's just going to keep everything in, because this will bubble up. And once we put the cheese on, it's going to get some height. We're just going to literally, and you can tell, like, this is a perfect mid-week little dish, because as we've been just chatting away, all the hard work is pretty much done.
I mean, this would be great, like spring sort of times coming up, summer if you're sitting outside, glasses of wine or something like that.
Exactly. And you can top this with anything. Once you've kind of learnt the basics of just blind baking and adding you can pretty much just roasted vegetables on the base, a little bit of truffle cream cheese perhaps.
That's a great product, that truffle cream cheese. Anyone hasn't tried the truffle cream cheese at M&S, get it on your shopping list. One of my favourites.
You did a recipe with that last year.
Yeah, we've done a couple with that now. We did like a nice pasta with some mushrooms through it. But to be honest, my favourite thing with that is just put it on some bread or something. It's just...
Or just cheese biscuits or...
Yeah. It's
digestive biscuits.
That's the thing, when the quality's this good, you can cook some fantastic recipes with it, but when it's in the fridge, just cutting a little piece off and eating it and just savouring it, you don't need a lot, just a little bit goes a long way, doesn't it, when it's that good and that powerful.
And it's ideal served in fresh pasta.
Yeah. Oh, we've got a bit of that later on.
It's almost like a cheese sauce.
Yeah, it really is. Look at that.
So now we have our shallot jam on the base.
Yeah.
We're just going to crumble over this beautiful Stilton. And for me, the more, the better.
Yeah.
You know, don't be shy. Just crumble it all over.
It's a melt there, Stilton, isn't it? It is going to melt down.
It melts really well.
Yeah. It's almost like a seasoning on there, right?
Yeah, yeah. So it really complements the saltiness of the cheese against the sweet, sharp tanginess of the kind of quick jam that we've done.
Great colour too.
Yeah. Right, so I was up at the Cropwell Bishop Creamery, and I was telling you the thing that got me. We went into the aging chambers. And I've never done that before, where they age all of this cheese. So they've opened up the door, and I've walked in, and it was like an atmosphere in the air. It almost felt hard to breathe. I don't know if I'm being a bit over dramatic, but he said, oh, it's like an ammonia that is given off from the process. Will you tell me a bit more about that?
Well, basically, as the blue cheese matures, and the moulds on the outside of the cheese are maturing, the cheese gets pierced after about 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, depending on the cheesemaker. It gives off gas. Yeah. And that gas becomes ammonia.
It can get quite strong, can't it?
It can be strong, but they do have air filtration to take a lot of that away. Because you can imagine working in that environment every day.
Process.
We're just going to pop this back in. This is going to be another 3 to 4-ish minutes. Just keep checking it. Basically, you're just looking for that cheese to be nice and melted all over. So we'll pop those in, and at the same time, we're just going to go in with our walnuts.
If you couldn't eat nuts, if you had a nut allergy or anything else you could use for a bit of texture, a bit of crunch?
We could use sunflower seeds. Yeah. That would be a nice alternative. You're just looking for something to give you a little bit of contrast against the softness that the tart tends to be.
And they haven't gone on top, they're just on a tray next to it.
They're just on a tray.
Them off. And then a few more minutes.
A few more minutes.
Back out.
And then back out.
Time for a bit more cheese, I think. What we got next, Chris?
Well, we have one of my all-time favourites. Yeah. It's an absolute classic. It's our 3-year Cornish Cruncher, only available in Marks and Spencer's. It is a special recipe that we have developed with the cheesemaker over the last 15 years. Yeah. Thank
you very much.
It is probably, I would say, the best cheddar in the UK without a shadow of a doubt.
If you've never tried the Cruncher, it's completely different to what you think of cheddar. It's almost on that Parmesan level, and there's a bit of like a crystal in there, but it's still quite creamy.
It comes from Cornwall, from Davidstow, on the North Cornish coast. You were there last year.
Yeah, fantastic. We did a tart with it.
It's sweet, it's savoury. It's got that same umami character and that savouriness, and the flavour goes on.
I can see them keep focusing on my face, smiling all the time eating this cheese. It's great.
You know, it is. I always smile when I eat this cheese because it's such a powerful cheese.
I love the crystallization through it. Every time you get one of those, it's just a massive flavour hit.
Just take a little drizzle of like really good balsamic or something on there, as you would a Parmesan.
An aged balsamic would be absolutely delicious with this. And I remember the cheesemaker said to you last year, a day without cheese is like a hug without a squeeze.
And do you know what it really is? And I've started eating, but also appreciating cheese, because I think we've all got it, we know what it is, and a lot of people, it's just something to grate onto it. But once you buy like a really good cheese, like this Cruncher, you just appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's try a bit with the old balsamic on. Why not over there? Don't make a mess. What's your favourite sort of cheese to cook with? What do you have in the fridge at home, George?
Favourite cheese to cook with?
Or maybe a favourite cheese product at Marks and Spencer's that you've worked on?
Honestly, the truffle cream cheese is... Truffle can be done so badly, and that is just perfectly balanced. It's got actual flecks of truffle running through it. Yeah. You can utilize it in pastas, on toast, breakfast, scrambled eggs to enrich it. Like, it's just phenomenal.
Touch of luxury.
Yeah, it really is. And honestly, the price point as well, like, is just amazing for what it is. It's really, really good.
And the truffle quality is so good.
Yeah, that's it. Well, there's pieces of truffle in. It's not like an essence, is it? It's proper truffle.
Genuine truffle.
Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful.
A quick reminder, the competition is going to close soon, so get your last entries in. What is your favourite cheese to the Sparks Live email address? Put a cheesy joke on there too if you want. I'll announce the winner later on. There you go, it's up on the screen now.
Let's double check.
So Francis would like to know, how can you tell blue cheese is off if it smells anyway? It's a good question. You buy the blue cheese, is it off? Does it go off?
Blue cheese, like any cheese, will go off after a certain amount of time, but blue cheese naturally has mould in it as well as on the outside. So I always would say it's a smell test.
Yeah.
If it smells really strong and unpleasant to the nose,
probably not
the cheese to eat. If you taste it and you've got that strong ammonia flavour or other flavours coming through, maybe it's time to move on.
But is it actually maturing like a Stilton? If you buy it, how long will that big piece last in the fridge?
So that cheese would typically be, the Stilton that we would sell would be anywhere between 10 and 14 weeks old.
Yeah.
But it will keep on maturing, and as it matures, it will get stronger.
Okay. Amanda wants to know, should you eat cheese out the fridge or bring it to room temperature?
I think it very much depends on the cheese.
Okay.
So in most cases, I would bring it to room temperature. But if you've got something like a fresh goat's cheese, you want it to be still chilled.
Interesting. This looks amazing, by the way. I can't wait for you to see this.
Right. Yeah, we are going to come out with this.
And it depends on the temperature of the room. If you're in a very cold room, it's going to take a lot longer to warm up.
In the summer, it'll come straight up.
Yeah.
Look at that. Is there another cheese we can taste quickly before we try?
Yeah, we got the Cropwell Bishop Beauvale. Yeah. Which is, again, this is a modern British classic. Okay. This cheese came about after a visit to Italy.
Wow.
Robin and I went to visit a Gorgonzola factory because I'm very keen on British cheesemakers getting ideas from continental cheesemakers. And Robin came over with his father and we went to this amazing Gorgonzola factory. Yeah. And it was after that Robin started experimenting and developing this most amazing, it's almost like a Gorgonzola crema.
Yeah, it's so creamy and luxurious, and I think the first time I tried that one, I thought, if you're not really into blue cheese or don't know where to start with it, that is like a great way to get that real savouriness, but without the strength that comes with it.
It's incredibly creamy. Oh. Very, very Moorish.
It seems like it's almost spreadable. If that was at the right temperature, you could... And we're going to use that for your pasta, aren't we?
Yeah, next. Yeah, we are.
This looks amazing.
Yeah, now the tart's come out and you can see how that cheese has kind of filled all the pockets and it's all golden everywhere. And you should have your toasted walnuts ready to rumble. And we're just going to simply crush those over the top. And we have some beautiful watercress, which we're just going to dress with a little bit of olive oil.
And George, how would you describe umami?
So umami is this kind of hidden scent or taste that kind of hits every palate, every aspect of your palate. So sweet, savory, rich, and you find it in things specifically like soy sauce, balsamic, blue cheese, miso,
parmesan,
anchovies, full of it. And you know when you've got it because it's that aha moment when you eat. You're like and you just love it, and you find yourself craving foods like
with
cheese
the umami
that have it all in, and you just keep going back for more, and you can't work out why you can't stop. Yeah. And that's umami. So we're just going to dress that watercress with a little bit of olive oil. Okay.
And what are you working on right now at M&S as development chef? What's coming up that you can maybe talk about, or what's been a really exciting project for you, George?
So at the moment, you know, we're run up to Easter, so we're just re-looking at our hot cross buns. Yeah. What could we do a little bit differently? How can we think a little bit more outside the box? But also, how can we be inclusive to you know, every culture, cuisine, and, you know, incorporate everyone in that whole celebration, whether they celebrate it or not. And then also, how can we flip that on its head and not just have hot cross buns for breakfast, but how do we make them applicable breakfast, dinner, lunch, everything.
If anyone's got any good ideas for hot cross buns,
let me know.
Put them in the comments. We will review them. And we've got a question. Is there such thing as a diet-friendly cheese? And what do you think of these sort of like reduced fat cheeses and things?
There's some really good reduced fat cheeses out there. And the technology to develop them, to give them real flavour, really good texture, has developed tremendously over the last 20 years. I would always say buy a really good cheese and just eat less of it.
That's what I'm like with sweet stuff when people ask it. I'd rather have a really good cake and just have a small little piece and enjoy it than eat a full sort of not as nice one and still get the same amount of calories.
You know, at the end of the day, you know, I suppose we're in a privileged position we can do that. Not everybody can. So, you know, we have some very good alternatives and vegan cheeses as well.
Yeah, they're coming along now. I can hear the crunch on that pastry, George.
Yeah, so we're just going to portion this into, you know, you can portion it into 6s, 4s, you know, however you want. And if you slide me up a plate, we'll portion one up. I'm a big fan of the corner pieces.
More pastry, more crispy.
Exactly.
There you go, that one's for you then. There we are.
Thank you.
Chris.
You guys can get stuck into this.
If anyone's made this at home tonight, please do tag us in your pictures, share them.
There we go. You might
right, get me
that one.
Plate. There we are.
You know, the longer you blind bake it to begin with, the crispier that base is going to be.
And as soon as we get this, we're going to pop on the screen for you now the ingredients for the carbonara style recipe. We'll get that up on the screen for you now, and then we'll have a little look at the method, and then George is going to get straight on with that, and it's going to be a kind of like a using British ingredients to do a spin on a carbonara. So I think one thing I learned last year traveling around all these amazing British farms and suppliers is support local where you can, and why not? And we can adopt different techniques from around the world and use our own ingredients for it. I better have a little taste of this tart, see how we get on with it.
So now we're going to move on to that carbonara of sorts. It's not a classic carbonara, but we want to show the versatility and the capabilities that you can.
Very tasty.
Very, very tasty.
Most of these cheeses into pretty much any dish that you want.
That's fantastic.
It really is delicious.
The sweetness of the sort of caramelising the balsamic, and then the cheese on top, and a bit, I mean, who doesn't like a bit of pastry to wrap it all up together?
Perfect combination.
It really is.
So to start the carbonara, we're just going to go straight in with our unsmoked back bacon, which we're just going to cut into little
Any preference, pieces. Smoked, unsmoked, or just whatever you like?
That really is your preference. I think I want the cheese to be the show and the star, so we're just going to go unsmoked, and this is just going to give it a little bit of saltiness, richness.
And there's a question come in from Jean. Jean wants to know, how do I go about choosing which olive oil? I'm not sure what to cook with. Well, generally I would say for a cooking olive oil, if you're going to fry with it, regular olive oil, save your extra virgins for either a very low temperature or just for a dressing, because they have like a lower smoking point, so it's going to burn and it can go a little bit bitter. So standard olive oil for your frying. But I'm cooking a lot with rapeseed oil now for frying with. A great British product as well.
So yeah, like Chris said, unfortunately all we have is nice quality olive oil, so we will be using it. But you want to be just using veg oil, something very neutral. Our regular olive oil is great for cooking. It imposes little to no flavour.
Because that's the other thing, I think when it comes to oil choice, it's like what cuisine are you going? If I was making a curry, I probably wouldn't cook with an olive oil because I don't want any flavour of olive at all. I'd go neutral, I'd go veg oil or something along those lines. What sort of pasta are you going to cook with tonight? Fresh?
So we're going to be using fresh spaghetti.
This for me is like the perfect thing. You get in from work, you open the fridge, you've got some good cheese, you've definitely got some pasta, everyone's got a bit of pasta, bacon, and it's really as simple as that, isn't it? A couple of eggs, bit of parmesan.
That's it, as simple as it gets. And this really is your go-to could even have this on a drunken night in.
Yeah.
You come home and
nice bowl of pasta.
Quickly knock this together. It's that easy.
Good quality ingredients. You don't need to do much to it.
So we are just going to let that kind of caramelize up. We want that to get nice and coloured, because if we don't, what will happen is when we add our wet mix to it, it will just soften up and get a bit unpleasant.
We've got a question for you. What sort of cheese goes with chicken? Is that easy to pair? Do you pair different cheeses with different food groups? Or is that quite broad? Would it depend on what chicken recipe it is you're cooking? Maybe let us know.
I think it really depends on the chicken recipe. You can use cheddar, you can use mozzarella, you can use taleggio, like we said before, you can use a good blue cheese.
Depends on what you're cooking.
Depends on the style of cooking you're doing.
There we go. Just fry that. A bit of colour, more flavour in there,
A little bit more colour.
You know, if you think about chicken Kiev, your cream cheese, the garlic, and the herbs.
Oh, that's a good dinner, that is chicken Kiev, isn't it? Would you go more cheese on top? Because you're bound to have some at home.
You can never have too much cheese.
How many cheeses have you got in your fridge right now at home?
Well, I have 2 fridges. I have one dedicated to cheese in the shed.
In the shed.
6-foot fridge. I've probably got about 50 different types of cheese in there at any one time. Because I'm always trying new cheeses. I'm always being sent cheeses to try.
It's a hard life.
And I also mature cheeses on, just to see how they develop.
How they land.
So this is kind of the point where now we're going to just remove that from the pan.
Yeah.
So we'll just put that in another
Keep the crispiness on it there.
Keep the crispiness. Turn that down. And what we'll do is we'll actually remove this pan from the heat.
Okay.
We're going to add just a little splash of water. Just like that. And keep this pan off the heat now. And we're just going to add this lovely creamy cheese.
And it's all soft already, and that's going to, I guess, emulsify with the water and create a sauce?
Exactly. So now we're just going to, this is going to help us create our little sauce.
It's like an instant cheese sauce, isn't it?
It's a really good tip, using water from pasta.
Water.
Yeah, so the pasta water is going to give us a little bit of starchiness.
Smell as well.
This is
outstanding. That's superb. Oh.
This is the ultimate.
A bit more cheese, I think.
Yeah, let's cut a bit off.
We can crack some more cheese in there if you like.
Extra cheesy.
So that pasta is only going to take a few minutes. This is how quick this little carbonara mix is. Chris wants more cheese for the very cheesy pasta.
Yeah.
So as you can see, that's already starting to make that gorgeous sauce. Yeah. And then the egg is just going to add even more richness. So true carbonara. So that pasta is about there.
Yeah.
So Chris, you're going to watch that frying pan.
Keep an eye on the sauce.
And we're just
Any more questions around cheese, get them in. Now's your time to ask Chris. And how's the cheese puns going? Can we see a few cheese jokes? Can we get those up on the screen? And that cheese is pretty much all melted through there.
Yeah.
I guess you haven't really going to need to add any salt to this because there's plenty in the cheese.
And we're also just going to go in with a nice handful of
peas,
fresh English peas.
And they're fresh, so they just don't need blanching off, they can just go straight in.
They can go straight in, and we'll add another touch of pasta water, which I've reserved, and that's just going to give us a little bit more time to cook our peas.
Could you freeze the tart as well? Would that freeze? Pasta, would you or not?
You could blind bake it and have your tart cases pre-blind baked, frozen. So then all you have to do is any toppings, cheeses, anything you have in your fridge, you can then just have as your quick and easy tart, and that the quote-unquote hard part is already done. Just going to add a splash more water in here.
A little bit of that. And you always keep that because you can loosen the sauce off
just a bit more.
I guess add a little, you can always add more, but you can't take it out, right?
And then we're going to go in with our pasta. Now we're going to start building our lovely carbonara.
I mean, that's what, that 3 or 4 minutes?
It smells so good.
Yeah. It's your cheese, that's what it is.
It's Cropwell Bishop's.
Cropwell Bishops. But I think the thing I love here, we're talking about seasonal ingredients, British bacon, peas, and we've got the cheese in there. Use what you can that's local. Bit of egg.
Little tip for the egg is if we add a little bit of water to it, is we give it more of a chance to not scramble.
Yeah. You need to take the heat down at this point or it will scramble. You don't want scrambled eggs.
All the way down. And all we're going to do now is literally just toss this together.
Look at that. That's lovely, isn't it? Very quick question from a viewer. Is there a cheese you don't like? And be honest, you don't have to like everything.
There's a blue cheese in Sardinia.
Yeah.
And they cut the top off and has maggots in it.
Yeah, I'll give that one a miss, I think,
once,
Chris.
And never again.
No. At least you tried it. Sounds like a bush tucker trial.
I'll try most things once.
Yeah.
But that wasn't great.
But it costs a fortune as well.
Yeah, it was very expensive. It's a real delicacy in Sardinia.
Was it April Fool's Day when they did that one?
No,
was that true?
no, it's one of their specialities.
Yeah. Speciality. Wow, maggot eating cheese. Each to their own.
Yeah, very bizarre.
Right, let's get a plate.
There we go. That is as simple as it needs to be. And
get that plated up.
Actually don't have any tongs.
Be all right. No one's got tongs at home. Don't worry.
Spoon and a knife.
Fork.
Fork, sorry. Perfect.
Here's how you do it at home to make it look like a chef like George. A little twist. Look at that. It just looks great as well. The colour from the peas.
The flavour is just going to be tremendous.
Yeah.
And it's going to be really creamy.
What's the best cheese for a white sauce, would you say?
A white
Susan
sauce.
wants to know.
I honestly love a little spillage. I love a little bit of just a not too mature cheddar. Otherwise, it gets a little bit overpowering. But it also depends like what
dish
the application is.
Yeah.
So if you're making a lasagna, you want something that's not too overpowering. So you could, like a nice mild cheddar.
I always think one of the keys with food, wine, it's what do you actually like though? Because you can read some, but use the cheese that you enjoy eating is the key, isn't it? There shouldn't be any snobbery around it saying you have to eat this because of this reason. It's what do you like the taste of?
You know, we sell many different levels of cheese, many different levels of flavour.
Yeah.
It's each to their own.
Yeah, that's it. And that's why there's such a great selection at M&S, because you'll find what you like and you get to try different stuff. There's a fork for you. Thank you. And we're going to have a little taste of this, and then we are going to jump over to the Cropwell Bishop Creamery in Nottingham, which I visited last week to find out how this Stilton and our cheese in this carbonara is made. So let's give it a go. See how this is. Get in there.
Is it good?
Am I allowed to say it's better than a carbonara? The flavour that comes through from that cheese is just something else. But it doesn't taste like blue cheese.
It's just so creamy.
Yeah.
It's got that lovely piquancy from the blue, which really complements it.
Yeah.
And then the freshness of the peas.
That really is like the ultimate. Quick and easy midweek meal.
Super easy.
Give that a go at home. If you haven't cooked along live, you can get the recipe. Give it a go, and while we tuck into this, over to me at the Cropwell Bishop Creamery. If you want to find out what happened and see more behind-the-scenes action from the Cropwell Bishop Creamery up in Nottingham, I went to visit there last week to meet the amazing Robin, who produces that M&S Cropwell Bishop Blue Stilton and the M&S Cropwell Bishop Beauvale. Click the link in the description. You don't want to miss it, and there's a few cheesy jokes in there for you too. It's un-brie-lievable. Quick note to the competition, it is now closed as per the chat. I'm going to reveal the winner in a minute, but we've got time for 3 more questions. And Cherry wants to know, George, what makes the best mac and cheese for a cheese?
So for me, the best mac and cheese is cheddar, a little bit of Gruyere, a little bit of pecorino. It's a bit of a wild one, but it gives this really lovely hidden complexity that you can never really pick up, but without it, you would know it's not there.
And how much of each?
So your main majority will be that cheddar, then Gruyere, then pecorino. And a little added tip is a pinch of cayenne, and you're going to want some mustard powder cooked into that roux and that base.
Nice.
And that just, again, you're just building that depth of flavour.
A little bit of spice.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And there's a question come in for you. What is the difference between Gorgonzola Kante and Gelate?
Gorgonzola Kante is an Italian blue cheese similar to Stilton. It's been aged for over 100 days, whereas Gelate is closer to Beauvale It's more of a mass-produced cheese than the Gorgonzola, and it translates as it means sweet milk. Both are absolutely delicious, just different types. One's firmer, which is the Kante, and more spicy, and the dolce latte is sweeter, smoother, creamier.
And in terms of eating them, is there a better time or recipe for those cheeses to use in?
It's personal preference. Yeah. Some people like stronger blue cheeses, others like soft, creamy cheeses.
Yeah. Personal preference.
Yeah.
And the question from me, and the question that we're all dying to know, is what makes an M&S cheese?
It's really difficult to become an M&S cheese, but it comes down to quality, consistency, flavour, the provenance of working with top producers from all over the UK and Europe, and we have long relationships with these guys, and it's really important that relationship, because that's what really gives us that point of difference and gives us the real flavour that we're all looking for.
Yeah. And speaking to some of the producers and things that I've met, when I ask them about M&S, they say one thing that is there is a really high standard that is required to supply cheese there, and they're all striving towards these standards, and I guess that's why it comes across in the product on the shelf.
We're all passionate about products and about quality, and the producers we work with are absolutely passionate about making the best cheese they can.
And that's why it's so good, right?
Yeah.
And winner of the competition is in. Alex,
here we go.
You have won a £50 voucher, and your favourite cheese is Cornish Cruncher, and I've got to say, probably one of mine. And we're going to polish this up, and in the meantime, enjoy your cheese at home and cook the recipes, tag us in your pictures, keep checking the Sparks Hub for more details on the next Sparks Live, which will be in April. And yeah, have a great night. That's an out from us. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Thanks for your company.
Cheers, Joe.
See you all next time. I'm going in for a bit now.